Morning. Today is Sunday, I think October 6th. I was going to make the video earlier, and it's about hurricanes and evacuating, and kind of explain what the process is you go through whenever you're deciding whether or not to evacuate or not. Because there's a new storm out there, and after Helene, I thought about doing this. I actually made the outline, and I said, well, we're not going to need it till next year. And regrettably, for Florida anyway, they're being hit again, and there's even a possibility of a third one coming. So I did want to mention this. It's not so much for people in Florida. They've been through this a lot, except for new people. And they actually evacuate different than we do. They just kind of evacuate up a little bit, and the reason they don't evacuate like we do is you can't evacuate that peninsula. It would take weeks to get everybody out of there. So we do it different here. But anyway, this kind of explain why people evacuate, why they don't evacuate. And first thing I'm going to cover, and to give my background, we flooded out on Harvey, had 8.5 foot of water. We've been down here since 2000. We've evacuated for some hurricanes, and we've not evacuated for hurricanes. So it kind of the thought process you go through, and also some tips that we learned, because like I say, we lost everything except for what you could put in a Toyota Camry and a pickup, and also evacuated with 2 dogs. So we had 6 people, 2 dogs, and 2 cars, and basically that's where you at sometimes. So reasons why people do not evacuate, and that's one thing I've heard from my family before. Why don't everybody just evacuate? Why don't everybody just leave? Well, because you can't. It takes about 3 days to evacuate people in the Golden Triangle, Port Arthur, Orange, and Beaumont. It's about 250,000 people. 3 total days, all right? During Rita, people tried to evacuate the storm. They didn't think it was coming here. In fact, we left the day before, and that when we left, everybody was going on vacation. But they didn't think it was coming here. And then all of a sudden it's coming, and they tell everybody to leave, and everybody has to leave on a moment's notice. And there was people that I know a lady at the office said that she left. They were going to Austin, trying to get away from the path of the storm. And what would normally take 4 to 5 hours took them 30 hours, to get out. So over a day, so they had to sleep overnight on the freeway because it's bumper to bumper traffic. You can't get people out of areas as fast as you think. You say, well, people drive all the time, but to get them out, you have to go down 2 lanes of highway, and that's the problem. And somewhere there's going to be a stop sign, and that's going to make everything congested. But anyway, reasons not to evacuate. Number one is going to be the cost. I heard people say, well, why would you put your life in danger? Well, first off, it just costs a lot of money. And like if you're going to try to evacuate in Florida, you probably need to be getting out now. And you say, but it's not even really a storm, it's not even a hurricane yet. But if it takes 3 days, it's going to be here Wednesday. This is Sunday. So that's one concern. And you really don't want to get caught on the highway. So you have to leave early. So it's going to probably be, if you leave 3 days before, 2 days after you come back home, because it's not been that bad, that's 5 days. Family of 4, it's going to cost you close to $1,500, $2,000 just for that 5-day trip. Think of it like a vacation. You don't want every vacation to be if you evacuate. And guess what? If you evacuate in Florida for Helene, now you got to evacuate again for Milton, and even the possibility of a third one. So you can't always evacuate, you just don't have the money to do it. And like I said, it's very expensive, so you got to kind of make that decision. Is this a bad enough one to leave or not? And you have to make that decision early. The second reason you don't want to leave is because of looting. When you leave and everybody else leaves, the stuff's all wide open. And there's not enough cops to, they can't stop robberies when, there's people here. People know no one's here. I've had people that I've known that stayed and actually have people walk in the house that they're going to loot it, not knowing. I know one lady, she walked in, thought her husband walked in behind her, and it turned out it was somebody who's trying to rob them. And whenever they heard, she yelled out, hey honey, is that you? And it got quiet. When she left, somebody had grabbed the towels and things. And when they steal everything. And they were one of the first houses in their subdivision, and they were just going to rob their whole subdivision. But they found out somebody was there, so they did leave. So you don't want everything to get stolen. So you leave, everything's good, the storm doesn't tear anything up, but you come home and your house is empty. So that's another reason. And a lot of people, they say, well, why don't you leave? Well, they don't really have a place to go. A lot of people down here, they live along the coast and their family lives along the coast. Most people, I said, one time he was a sports announcer, so I'm sure he's right, but he said 50% of the people live within 50 miles of where they were born. And they just don't have any family to go to. And even the motels, if you start trying to call to get a motel and there's a hurricane in the Gulf, or they're supposed to hit where you're at, the motels, when you call them, will say, we have no vacancy, even when you do. So, and that's a tip. If they say they don't get a vacancy, you just gotta drive. They've probably got vacancy. They just don't, corporate doesn't want evacuees, because you'll say, okay, I want the motel for 2 weeks. You get there, the storm goes over, then you cancel. Well, you had, 10 days or whatever that you had booked, and now it's not booked anymore. You might have turned people away that you could have got bookings anyway. So they really don't want evacuees for that reason. What are you gonna do with your pets? If you evacuate, I said, well, take your pets with you. Well, I'm a family of 4. We're now down to 1 car. We got a Toyota Camry. I got 3 Dobermans. And I also have a horse and a donkey and 50 chickens. But they can kind of take care of themselves, but the Dobermans can't. So do you just leave them? And we have left the dogs in the past. Now we knew we were coming right back, but they just don't fit. And when you get to where you're going, they may not have a place to put the dogs that they can put you up and you sleep on the couch, but they don't want your Doberman, or they don't want your dog. Now, if you got a little foo-foo dog, that may be different. But if you actually got a regular sized dog, it's one thing to say, hey, we're gonna come up, we need to spend a few nights for the hurricane. It's another thing to say, hey, I got a dog, I need to bring with you. Well, people aren't equipped to take you and your dog. And also the plants you got here, I've got here, do you just leave those plants and they're gonna probably all die, and you got hundreds of dollars worth of plants and time and energy, and it most of the time seems to turn off really hot after the hurricanes come. So that's a minor consideration, but still a consideration. And the other thing is, if you leave late, you can have congested roads. There is a certain amount of fear that you may get caught have been people caught, here comes the hurricane, coming right behind them. And that did happen during Rita. We had a pastor that he was evacuating late, and he said he could look behind him and see the hurricane coming. And there were, it was starting to clear out, and he was able to make it, but and he did have to stop at a parking lot and try to spend the night there. One of the cops tried to run him off, and he said, hey, we're just trying to find a place to sleep, because sometimes people get weird during hurricanes too. So that's another thing. People get really nervous, and I even knew one guy, I guess I'm gonna go off on a story. He was a worker of mine. He's a federal employee, he's a biologist for USDA, and he traveled away for his work, and he was traveling home, I think during Rita, and he noticed some people had been behind him, and so he lived out in the country. He pulls in to this gate, and the people come in behind him into his gate. So it's like, okay, and they stop. So he goes back and says, hey, can I help you? He said, hey, we're fleeing from the hurricane. Would you mind if we just spent the night, park our car here so, won't be stolen, be safe, and we want to spend the night in our car. And he basically told me, yeah, I have a problem with that. So I'm not gonna have somebody sleeping out there in the car when I got a house to stay in. And basically he said, come on in. And they came in and they cooked, and they said they had a good time. But they were just looking for a place to stay, and they were willing to spend the night in the car. And he said, no, I'm not gonna have anybody stay in the car. You're gonna stay in the house with us. So sometimes people are nice, but it's just in the stores and things, people get kind of strange. When's the best time to evacuate? Okay, so say you haven't done it before, you're looking to evacuate. Read the day before the evacuation order comes. If you find out they're going to evacuate, a lot of times they'll tell you, well, we plan on having evacuation order tomorrow morning. Go and leave that night. Leave before everybody else congests the roads. And try to decide early. I had an old man who's dead now, and one of the first hurricanes, Hurricane Lily, I believe, and I was trying to figure out where it needed to leave or not, because it was not supposed to hit. It's supposed to turn at the last minute and hit Louisiana. And he said, well, whatever you do, and he said he was staying, probably not that big a deal. And then he said, but you got kids. He said, well, you might want to. He said, but whatever you do, leave before the evacuation, because that way you got clear sailing, you can go where you want to, because they start, if you're evacuating, they sometimes will not let you take they won't let you go east or west. You got to go north here. They block off the roads and things. So The other thing, be packed and ready to leave at a minute's notice. At Rita, we were gone, but people told us, they said that at 7 o'clock, the new uploads came up, and basically the new models came out and said, it's bad, leave. It was 175-mile-an-hour winds. He said right for Winnie, which was put us on the dirty side. It was the worst case scenario. If it stayed that strength, all of Jefferson County would be underwater. There'd be tens of thousands of deaths, okay? Some people don't realize just how bad it was. So everybody started leaving. Now, granted, half of them stayed, so for a day and a half, it was totally congested. So try to leave early. And I know you can say, well, that's another $200 or $300, but it's worth it. So try to make up that decision early. But if you do stay, be prepared, because if you find out something changed, that you can get on the road and you can get out of here quickly. Don't sit there and, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and you spend 2 or 3 hours, and then when you get ready to leave, well, guess what? Everyone else is in front of you, and everyone else is blocking things up. I do know during Rita, our neighbors tried to leave, and I think it's like 1.5 miles to get to the freeway, and he spent, I think, 4 hours trying to go 1.5 miles, and finally he just turned around and went back home. He said, this is crazy. So if you're gonna leave early, or if you don't leave early, be prepared to leave as soon as things go south. So anyway, and when you're leaving, get away from the coast if you can. Those things can turn. We had a guy that he was in Beaumont during Rita, and he evacuated to Lake Charles, and guess what? Rita went right over Lake Charles. So he went into the path. Now, was not supposed to do that when he left, but his family, again, lived along the coast, so he thought he was getting outside of it, and he didn't. So try to get away, try to get outside of it, don't, and also, or try to go to high ground. In Florida, they always try to go to high ground. Do not stay in the flood-prone area, especially if you're in a storm surge area. If that stuff can come in, you can't get out. That's where a lot of deaths are. Don't play around with it. Don't say, well, I've been here 30 years and it never has happened before. Believe me, there's people who live here their entire life and never saw the floods we had during Ike or during Harvey. There's a lot of once-in-a-lifetime events in your life, so don't just take past experience and think, hey, it's going to all turn out well. Be careful of trees. That's one thing that scares me about this house. We got trees around, and trees, it kills a lot of people. Even people driving down the road sometimes. I know one of the first deaths they had for Helena was a tree blew over and hit a car that's driving down the road. So there's not a whole lot you can do about that, but still, just be cognizant of the fact that trees are going to be a problem. Prep before you're leaving. Okay, so you decide you're going to leave, and maybe you got some time. Harvey was a slow death or slow impending doom, and we had plenty of time. First thing you want to do, empty that refrigerator, especially if you know you're going to lose power. Empty the refrigerator and the deep freeze. I don't care if you have to throw it in the dumpster, if you have to throw it out in the ditch somewhere, get that food out of your house. It's going to spoil, it's going to turn bad, and you don't want to come home and say, okay, now I got to empty this stuff out, because you might not even have that bad of storm damage, but guess what? You got a big refrigerator, and my refrigerator that I had at the old house, you had to take the doors off of it to get out the front door. So guess what? You would have had to take the doors off, and all that stinky, rotten smell. I had maggots one time. I forgot 1 can of biscuits, and the maggots they got in, they were eating all those biscuits. It wasn't really that bad, but still. And so you don't want that headache coming back home. So get rid of that food, get it out of your house. Because if you know you're going to lose power, that food's going to go bad anyway. You don't want to come home to a nasty, stinky refrigerator. Put things as high as you can, and that includes an attic if you think you're going to flood. We did make that mistake during Harvey. We put stuff up in the top of the closets, and guess what? When you got 8.5 foot of water, the top of the closet's not tall enough. So go as high as you can. You can't get everything, and that might not be high enough either. Some people with water got in the attic, but try to get things up. Insurance ain't going to bail you out, guys. I'm just telling you. Government's not going to come here in a white horse. If you lose stuff you'll never recover everything that you lose in a hurricane, even if you're insured. And if you don't have flood insurance, they're not going to insure anything for floods. So just be aware of that. Even people up in Georgia is going to find it in North Carolina, places you never thought they'd flood. I think one person said 1% of the people in Ashton had flood insurance. Charge all your batteries, all your cell phone batteries, all your work, your shop batteries, your tool batteries. You know, you do walk tools and all that stuff. Charge those batteries up. You might need them. You might just need them for the, you know, I got a light, so I want all my batteries charged up because you don't really know when you can get electricity back again. So you have all those charged up. So don't sit there and think, you know, and just keep them charged. I mean, don't sit there and let them things get down. You don't know when you're going to lose electricity. Once you lose it, you're not going to get back for several days. Take pictures for proof of insurance of stuff in your house, or take a video so you can remember what's in your house. Because if the worst comes, you want to be able to, you know, see what you lost. And you might not remember, well, I had this or I had that. And also for proof the insurance that you got it. The insurance is going to want to have a serial number and a model number for your appliances and things, but stuff like furniture, things of that nature, that way you got evidence. And pictures are better because they're going to want you to send that stuff in. It's better than video, but video is good for you to be able to see what's going on. So just, you know, hopefully you don't need them. You know, hopefully it won't be bad, but it could be. And the last thing you want to do before you walk out of that house is turn off the main breaker. You've already emptied out your refrigerator. You're going to lose electricity anyway. That way, any of your electronics, if there's a surge in the lines, a lot of electricity during these storms, that should be able to save your electronics. Plus, when you come back, if you're flooded and you're having to walk in water, you're not going to get electrocuted. I don't understand. I'll see people in these videos and they'll be walking around inside the house and the lights are on. I'm going, okay, you got lights in the house. What's the deal? So turn off that main breaker. You don't need that electricity on. What do you take? Okay, I'm going to tell you some things you may not think about. If you have kids, don't lie to your kids. Tell them, hey, this could be bad. We could lose everything. Go pick out your favorite toy. Go pick out your favorite things you want to take from you. And that's sad, okay? But just don't lie to your kids and say, hey, we could lose everything. Go pick out something, because that may be all the kid has to. If it's a favorite stuffed animal, that may be all he has to comfort himself if he loses everything. We had young kids at the time. And, you know, our youngest one, I mean, he would grieve over every toy that he lost, but he did have some that he saved. So let him pick out their favorite toy. Just tell him, okay, here's your backpack. Go put your most cherished possessions, put it in there, okay? And you may not think that's important at the time. As an adult, we don't think that's necessarily important, but that kid does. Computer. Take the computer with you, because guess what? It's going to have all your stuff that you're going to have on it. It's going to have all the, you know, your old, you may have all your old income tax forms. You have one of them old income tax forms. You might have to buy a new house when this thing's over with. We did. We had no intentions of buying a new house, but we did have a computer with us, and guess what? We had the income tax forms on our computer. We also, you know, you're also going to need a birth certificate. You're going to need your Social Security card, stuff that you don't normally think about taking. Take it with you, because if you have to buy, think about it, you may have to buy a house and things over with. If this floods out, it destroys everything. They're going to want all these documents that you may not have. And definitely remember to take your driver's license and things. Take those things, take the extra keys to your cars, but take those important papers that you need, that you may not think about. Family pictures, of course, and that's something everybody kind of thinks about. We took all our family pictures and put them up high, because we didn't really have room in the pickup except in the back. We didn't want to get wet, so we put them high in the closet. Yeah, that didn't work, but we tried. I do regret that to this day. And some things you'll lose, you'll regret. Like I lost a guitar. My wife says she's gonna die. I never played that guitar, but I had that guitar since I was a junior in high school. I towed it around with me, kept it. I practiced twice the whole time, but it's my guitar. And yeah, I lost it in the flood. Now, I wish I actually found it, but it'd been underwater for several days, so we just chunked it. I kind of wish I just kept it and hung it on the wall or something, but I didn't. Weird things like that you wouldn't think would bother you, kind of does. My wife lost all of her Barbie doll collection that she had from the kids somebody gave her. Take your insurance papers with you. Make sure you can get hold of your insurance agent and call him in whenever it happens. Take all the battery chargers with you. You know, don't just, oh, we're going to run out there and you got your cell phone, but I don't have a battery charger to charge up with. Take cash. Because if you have a local bank, less and less we're having local banks, but if you just have a local independent bank and it goes under, guess what? You can't get your money out. You can't sit there and say, that stuff starts getting shut down. Or, you may go to an area that all their electricity's off, but they're still open. But if you got cash, they can still deal in cash, but they just have no way of no electricity's up, so you need to go out and buy some food or something. You need to have some cash. So don't forget about having some cash. You don't want to take too much in case somebody steals you or robs you, but that is a consideration. And then what do you do? What do you take with you when you come back home? And you might think, well, you just come back home. Get a generator. If you're going to get a generator, get the generator. Make sure that generator's running. If you have a generator, make sure that thing's running. If I was people in Tampa right now and I had a generator, crank that sucker up, because you got a day or two that you can work on that thing. And if you get hot and overheated, you can go back in air conditioning. It's hot. You can get hot after these hurricanes hit. So just get the generator, get it running, and get that real thick plug that you get that's got the wire that's that big. Those are what you can't find after the hurricane. You can find sometimes generators. You can't find that plug. And that plug is so you can run it into the house and take that generator and get away from your house, okay? Because generators kill people every hurricane, seems like. And sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's kids. One time they had a person, and the reason they do that, and people say, why would anybody put a generator in a garage? The reason is, right now there's noises. You hear noises, you hear some noise, traffic driving down the deal, you'll hear the train, you'll hear somebody's air conditioner running. Not right now, usually you do, or somebody running a lawnmower. After a hurricane, it is totally quiet. And you crank up that generator, and everybody from a mile or two around can hear that generator. And generators are important during a hurricane. I forgot to get I want a generator. And people would steal those generators. I know one guy that they had to run to town, came back, somebody stole a generator while they're gone, because everyone knows where they're at. Because you cranked them up, you ran them, they're loud. So that's why they do it. But don't put them in your garage, get them away from your house, because what happens is, if you have one lady had it in the garage, but they left the door open. That way it ventilates, right? Because if you get a car, and you got the door open, you should be safe. But what happened was, it had south wind, it's south facing garage, and the wind blew those carbon monoxide into the house. I think there's like 7 people and several kids in the house and killed every one of them. So be careful of that, get it away. Be careful if you got an open window or something, or a cracked window. Just make sure that stuff's not, if you start getting a headache, that's a sign of carbon monoxide poisoning. So just if you start getting a headache, you might want to check your generator. But also have a lot of filled gas cans. Some people say, well, I got a generator and one can of gas. Well, that's not going to last you very long. You want to have several cans of gasoline. That's just kind of. The other thing you want to bring back with you, or take with you if you have it with you, is a chainsaw. You say, well, I'm not going to need a chainsaw. Well, when you come back, and put new blades on it. Get you a couple of 3 different blades, okay? That way you can change them out. Make sure you got that little tool that you can tighten your chain and on it, because you may have to cut your way back in. You may be the first person back, and the roads are, well, I'm not going to show you that, but this road here, it can be crisscrossed with several trees, and you may have to get out here and cut trees down just to get to your place. And so that is many people had to do that, because it's not the government that comes in and clears out the trees on the road many times. It's the homeowners trying to get back into their house. And they'll cut it down, move it out, so that the next people can come. But if you're the first one back to your neighborhood, you're the one that's going to have to clear the path. Food and water, both. If you're evacuating, you want food and water in case you get caught in traffic. And when you come back, it's going to take a gallon of water a day for survivability. Just drinking water, and water to brush your teeth with. It takes, I think they said 13 gallons if you have a source of water that you can flush the commodes with. If you have to take one of these plastic trash cans like I got, fill up with water just to flush the toilets, okay? If you want to put it in your house, you can also use it to wash up with, So, one time I did, I made a mistake when we had, during Snowmageddon. I thought, well, hurricanes usually, I'm not worried about the livestock having water, because of hurricane it rains, so they got water. We got a little semi-creek or ditch down the back, and the horses can get water out of it. But they can't during a snowstorm. Everything freezes. So I thought, oh crap. So I took 2 of those big trash cans, put one in the bathtub. Bathtubs are great, but if bathtubs leak, you're gonna lose all the water. So I put both of those one in the bathtub, one beside the bathtub, filled them up with water, and that's what we use for giving the horse and the chickens some water, and the dogs. Rubber totes, those Rubbermaid, those big totes that you get, bring a bunch of those with you, because if you have to pack stuff up, those are really looked after or really sought after, because that's what you use to pack all your stuff up that's got ruined in the floods and stuff you're trying to save, DVDs, whatever. You put stuff in totes, zip that up. Okay, we're gonna try to save this stuff, and that's what you use. Or if you have to pack stuff, have some of those totes too. If you're leaving, you put them in totes, throw them in the back of the truck, and you head out. We don't have a truck now, but if you do have a truck, that'll help work too. And the last thing, and have some type of a firearm if you can. And I know no one's coming if you have an emergency. If some weird guy comes up, you don't have cell phone service. That's another thing. You won't have cell phones. You will not. Words are hard. You will not have a cell phone service after the hurricane. All the towers go down because you don't have electricity. If you have a landline, it's 50-50, but you will lose service, almost guaranteed, because they do got batteries to those, but after 2 or 3 days, those batteries go down on those cell towers, and then you're out. So you don't have anybody during the emergency. And I know we had a lady that she was a county agent, and somebody came out to interview her, a reporter, and she had a gun strapped to her hip, and she's out in the country, and they said, that's nice, that way if you got snakes or whatever, or varmints, you have a way to kill the snakes and stuff. And she looked at her and said, that's not why I carry the gun. But why do you carry the gun for? I said, I carry the gun for other people. He said, I'm out here by myself with my daughter. Her husband may be somewhere else. I said, somebody walks up, we don't know who they are. And that's just a way we can protect ourselves. Never had to use it. Now, if you don't know how to use it, don't do it, okay? If you don't know how to handle a firearm, you do not need to have one, because I'll take it away from you and shoot you. But if you know how to use one, just think about that. If you're coming back in, just for self-protection, keep it safe. Don't go around, trying to act like Rambo or anything, but just have it there. If anything, just a comfort, saying, when some weird guy walks up, is going to try to mug you or try to rob you, you do have some protection, or try to kill you. I mean, we don't know in this day and time. But anyway, before I ramble on too much, if you have any questions about that, again, don't condemn people for not evacuating. I understand why they don't evacuate, but if you're in a low-lying area, you're going to have to. But a lot of people, that just don't make sense to them. And I understand why you don't evacuate, but try and be prepared, and say a prayer for those people in Florida. They're going to get hammered by it. And my next video, I'll be all about gardening. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something.